Welcome to Forthright. I'm Sulani Madsen, bringing you a column and commentary feature. This one written the week before Mother's Day and now celebrating the end of filing week for municipal races. I crowdsourced ideas on Facebook posting, "Tell me your mother's favorite piece of advice and I'll apply it to campaign season." All entries welcome, no matter how cliched, and I already have these two covered. I was already planning on doing "You have two ears and one mouth for a reason, and if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all." So sharing their mothers and sometimes dads, grandmas, and one random Boeing engineer, sharing that advice was a popular diversion for several days on my Facebook page. The full list is posted on Substack below the video link. I'll skim down the list and highlight a few of them after the column. But first, the column, as published Thursday, May 11th, 2023, in the Spokesman Review. Headline: Some Motherly Advice for Candidates. To all those taking the first steps from private citizen to public candidate this year, we salute you as you step into the arena. Filing for public offices, from precinct committee officer to city council and all manner of school, fire, and other special districts, ends at 4:30 p.m. on May 19th. As we are also about to celebrate Mother's Day this weekend, and there's your reminder if you forgot to get a card, here's a review of crowdsourced motherly advice that applies to elections as well as recess. Number 1, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. This is a hard one for candidates and kindergartners, obviously as problematic in a hotly contested campaign as for writers of political commentary or anyone drawn into a political debate. The only way to keep mom's advice from echoing in your head is to avoid attacks of a simply personal nature and stay focused on principles, philosophy, and actions. For example, one can reasonably say that a former orchardist taking a basket of homegrown tree fruit across the state to the heart of apple country in violation of Washington Department of Agriculture quarantine and the clearly posted highway signs is an idiotic action without saying the person who did it was an idiot. Thoughtless or careless or just plain screwed up on a slow news day, but not necessarily an idiot. And while I'm sure Governor Inslee meant well, he's been in public office long enough to know Rule 2. You can't control other people's actions, but you do control your reaction. Whatever you say or do or propose as a candidate, whether you mean well or not, someone will object. If your critics have learned to keep civil tongues in their heads, the objections will focus on policy. If they make it personal, see Rule 3. Or as Mark's mom told him, don't let anyone live rent-free in your head. Rule 3, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Unfortunately, this advice seems to have been replaced by trigger warnings and safe spaces, but it's an effective shield to those of a certain age. If you are blessed with a baseline level of childhood teasing and your mom gave you this mantra to protect you, congratulations. You are now prepared to be a candidate. As a corollary, Bill's mom says you can only be offended by someone whose opinion you've chosen to respect. And as Tina's mom recommends, kill them with kindness is the best response. Rule 4. You have two ears and one mouth for a reason. Every candidate needs to have a short speech ready, at the very least, to answer the questions, who are you? Why are you running for this office? And are you daft? Remember to shut up and listen twice as often as you're speaking. You might learn something. Also, as the ancient writing in Proverbs 17:28 says, even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues. Or perhaps the modern version from Annie's mom resonates with you. Best to be thought stupid than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Rule 5. If your friend jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge? This is a year for ostensibly nonpartisan elections, but polarization is ubiquitous. Nonpartisan or not, independent voters are looking for people who are capable of walking away when the gang says jump. On the other hand, when it's a hot day at the right bridge, we need people who will boldly jump even when others hesitate. Maggie's mom says courage is contagious. Rule 6. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Motherly advice in the spirit of Rule 1 to candidates Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Smart people know when they've worn out their welcome. Rule 7. It takes forever times to be truthful, but only once to be a liar. Lying isn't new, but we've become rather too used to lying in politics. We the people need to expect better from candidates. So, candidates, if it isn't truthful, if you wouldn't say it on a billboard next to your mother's house or repeat it in front of a judge, then don't say anything at all. Welcome to campaign season 2023, and may the best candidates win. I'm not going to read the entire list. Most are so common they've become cliches, but they've only hung around long enough to be cliches because there's some golden nuggets of wisdom to be had. I am, however, not sure where a lot of people mention that if everybody else was jumping off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge? Were there ever that many children jumping off bridges? Anyway, on this list, there's the classic, life happens when you're making other plans, and bloom where you are planted. You only get out of life what you put into it. There's a reason these things are around as good advice, because they're still good advice. And this kind of goes along with that jumping off a bridge. If you don't want the brand, don't run with the herd. If you show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. That's another one. There's advice for housekeeping: clean enough to be healthy, but let it be messy enough to be happy. I think that has to do with having your priorities straight. Is your priority absolute cleanliness of the house, or the harmony of the household? Stand up straight. I gotta remember that one. Sit up straight. Quitting is not an option. Audrey writes, it's always something. It's something that her mother would say. Her mother had never seen Rosanna on Saturday Night Live, stayed up late one night to watch it, and was not amused. Can't, never did do nothing. I've heard that one before. You don't start, you're not getting any done. If you stick your lip out any further, a bird will land on it. Now, that's what Virginia's mom said. My mom said a little birdie will come along and poop on that, which certainly created an interesting image in my mind about why pouting wasn't a pretty pose. Mary Lynn, never ever make only one lasagna. If you're going to that much trouble, make two and freeze one. Very practical. Like I said, the whole list is there. It's an interesting exercise, really. Think about what's something that your mother repeated to you so often that it's definitely stuck in your head. I know that one that I had repeated to my daughter is life is not fair, because she was on a rant sometime in about the third grade about some injustice that she had perceived at school, and she had gone on her rant, and then she looked at me and said, and don't tell me life's not fair. So apparently I had said that enough that it had sunk in. I would like to also make note, there was an interesting letter to the editor the day that I'm recording this on May 19th that provided some additional good advice, and I'll read it here. It's from Jim Baumker in Liberty Lake. I would like to add some fatherly suggestions to Sulani Madsen's excellent motherly advice. See May 11th letter column. Don't rationalize bad behavior with whataboutisms. Reject bad behavior as bad. Don't use worn-out labels or tropes to disguise an inability to actually articulate a position. I rather think that didn't come from his mother or his father, but it's good advice. And please don't insult us by succumbing to the worn-out strategy documented by satirist, writer of satire, H.L. Mencken in 1889. The whole aim of practical politics is to keep the populace alarmed and hence clamorous to be led to safety by menacing it within an endless series of hobgoblins, all of them imaginary. It's past time to look beyond the Democrats and Republicans and support candidates adhering to sensible motherly and fatherly advice. Please consider the Forward Party. And there is a group that is attempting to create a viable third party for 2024. That'll be an interesting thing to watch and see how it develops. Meanwhile, if you're having a bad day, let's take the advice from Jeannie's mom. Go to bed. You'll feel better in the morning. Well, filing week is over. The candidates list is all set. Words can hurt when you let them, but they can also build up. So I hope that they and you find this advice useful. Look at the list. Maybe you'll find inspiration for something to write in a graduation card that season is coming up too. I'm still working on how to invite municipal candidates to join me for interviews over the next few months as a continuation of Spokane Talks Media's popular Meet the Candidate series, although I've realized this week how difficult that's going to be to pull off without the tech support I'm used to having from Sam and Vinny, which might mean finding sponsors so I can get some help, which might mean, we'll see if I can pull it off. Thank you for joining me for this edition of Forthright. Be sure to like and subscribe for notifications of new content. And pledges are welcome, but you can subscribe for free. And hope to see you in the next edition.